Avoid the negatives of photography. Come to Boots for positively everything you'll need to get the perfect print.
Don't waste your film, son. Riff-raff. Always turn up early. Olympus Superzoom? Nah, you need all the kit for this caper. Splash out on a few lenses.
No point. 38 to 105. All in one lens.
Yeah, but where's your attachments, your bits and bobs? Flash, motor drive.
Built in.
Built in? Oh, my giddy aunt, what is that? Space Invaders?
Computer. Frames the shot for you.
Ooh, trick photography. Yeah, hold up, it's Lionel Blair. Lionel, give us a 12.
Hello, Bailey.
Bailey?
Come on, darling, a bit more like that. Oh, yeah, more of that. Oh, yeah.
David Bailey.
Exude, yes.
I thought we only done weddings. Sorry, Lionel, missed it.
The Olympus Superzoom.
Clausthaler. Could anyone but the Germans brew it? According to the rule book, a car with a reputation for safety can't be exciting. The new Volvo 440, a car that changes the rules.
Hello? My company has developed a low-cost solar pump. Is anybody interested?
What language should this man use to talk to overseas customers?
Is anybody there?
It isn't English.
Voulez-vous une pompe solaire?
It isn't French.
Eine Sonnenpumpe Gerät?
It isn't German. Maybe he should try a different language altogether.
Aha!
For this is the business language of the future. And thanks to British Telecom's network, you can speak it anywhere in the world. It can help overseas buyers picture your product instantly. You can even talk direct to those buyers using our online translation facilities.
I think we're in business, Derek.
If we've been talking your language, maybe you should start talking ours. For your action pack, call us free on 0800 800 828. British Telecom. It's you we answer to.
Sparkling wine is well known for its loud pops, flying corks, and for celebrating the odd occasion or two. But when you taste Asti Martini, you'll find a difference. A light, luscious, fruity taste that sets it apart from other sparkling wines. Asti Martini, the sparkling wine to enjoy at any time. So, just celebrate the taste.
Hello, it's London Weekend Television's 21st anniversary, and this is 21 Live, where we're celebrating throughout the weekend. We've had stars of some of the classic LWT shows dropping in all evening. It's been marvellous fun, and we'll be meeting many more before the weekend's out. But you've been a very important part of our trip down memory lane as well, because earlier on this evening, we set you a little bit of a poser. 7 LWT stars took us on a guided tour behind the scenes here. And as they described what was going on, they slipped in the titles of 21 LWT shows, past and present, which we asked you to spot. Now, there's a splendid home video camera for the first person with all 21 titles. Now, you needed a pretty keen ear and a very good knowledge of LWT shows. So, Joanna, I actually wondered, would anybody get all 21 correct? So
we thought they were quite difficult, didn't we? But they did, yes. But before we tell you who they are, here are the 21 titles. Now, Bob Carolgees, aided and abetted by Spit, had The Professionals, On the Buses, and It'll Be All Right in the Night hidden in his piece. Julian Clary dropped Play Your Cards Right, Black Beauty, and Poirot into his guided tour around our makeup department. Now, Chris Tarrant, in between giving one of our poor editors us an enormous amount of grief, mentioned Wish Me Luck, The 6 O'Clock Show and The Two of Us. And did you spot Beatles' 3 titles? They were The Gentle Touch, Surprise Surprise and Beatles About. Now, the dashing Oblivion boys were in the dressing rooms as usual. Their 3 titles were Within These Walls, London's Burning and You Bet. And our Scylla mentioned Upstairs, Downstairs, The Dame Edna Experience and Agony. And finally, Danny Baker. Now, his titles were Child's Play and The South Bank Show, but the one that flummoxed most people was Danny's 3rd title. So by popular request, here it is again.
Apparently, a couple of years ago, one of the artists forgot these knife lines, and a very famous name launched himself at one of these, and the next thing he knew, the nurse was standing over him. No, honestly.
Got it? Oh, no, honestly, so that's it. All 21 of our titles, and there were loads of people who got them all right, but we had to take the first people that rang up. Our 2 runners-up were Alan Ewers from Essex, Jacqueline Butch from Tooting, but the winner, who rang within seconds of Scylla finishing, was Steve Spice from Bromley.
Yes, I have to say Steve was very quick off the mark, first to get through, and he joins me at the end of the telephone. So good evening to you, Steve.
Good evening, Gloria.
Many congratulations.
Thanks very much.
I take it you watch an awful lot of television to know the answers to all these questions.
I wouldn't like to say that, really. I've just got a good memory.
Have you been down to look at shows or go to the studios?
Yes, we've been along a few times to see a few shows. We've always been well looked after.
And do you enter a lot of competitions anyway?
No, this is about the first, I think.
Really? So it's first time lucky. You'll pick up your camera. Steve, congratulations.
Lovely.
Thanks a lot for joining us.
Thank you.
And of course, Steve will also get an invite to our 21st birthday party on Sunday evening. It's going to be a very special occasion, really a big gala event. And we've got other invitations to give away. And you've guessed it, 21 other lucky people who are sharing a 21st anniversary with LWT this weekend. Now, Reg Varney of On the Buses, he's been here with us all evening, keeping us company. And he's on the settee with Joanna, by the way, choosing out the lucky guests.
Hands off, hands off. No, yes, we have. We've had great fun, haven't we, picking who was going to go to the party.
Well,
Reg, which ones did you pick in the end?
Well, Rory Clark-Levin and his mum from the Isle of Dogs are invited. Rory rang to tell us that George's cat is 21 months old on the 1st of August. Well, Rory, I'd love to tell you this, that my cat is 21 years old.
Right.
And he's beautiful and I adore him.
Oh, so, well, the old cat can come to the party as well.
I'll
What's
bring
the
him
other
as well.
one?
I'll bring Tiggy.
Tiggy?
That's his name. That's his name, yeah.
What's the other one?
Mr. and Mrs. Lee ordered a wall telephone from the GPO, as it was then, on the 1st of August 1968. It still hasn't arrived. Well, I must tell you this, I ordered one at the same time and mine hasn't arrived.
OK, Reg, thank you very much.
Well, British Telecom will be delighted to hear all of that. Anyway, thanks to Joanna and, of course, to Reg. We've had good fun all evening, but I'm afraid that's all from 21 Live for today. Stay tuned, though, for a special Anniversary London programme, which takes quite a nostalgic look at the place we live and how it's changed in the last 21 years. We'll see you tomorrow at lunchtime.
There are plenty of goodies still to come. Our LWT 21 celebrations span the whole weekend. Stay with us for the weekend, right through to a royal gala and the LWT party on Sunday night.
Life we choose, we'd even me, I was sort of lying around with hair down to my shoulders and poppies in my hair and shades you couldn't see through and beads, and assuming this was, I mean, a great step forward for all humankind.
I think the way a lot of young people felt in the last bit of the 60s, certainly the people in what was known as the underground, or the counterculture, which was the area in with which I was most associated, was wonderfully naive, very innocent, very keen, very optimistic. We can change the world.
We can get ourselves some satisfaction.
I think the whole of our generation was chasing some rather good rainbows, and some of them were fueled by drugs, and some of them were fueled by politics. The point was the world could be changed, and we were going to change it.
All right. Hot town, summer in the city, back of my neck getting very pretty. Bend down, isn't it a pity? Doesn't seem to be a shadow in the city. All around, people looking half dead, walking on the sidewalk harder than a match here. But at night it's a different world. Go out and find a girl. Come on, and dance all night.
I think my aspirations were that I wouldn't necessarily play any part in everything, but I expected the whole world to carry on changing and getting better.
In the summer, in the city.
We plan to hold this building as a symbol of corruption in this society.
Looking for a kitty, gonna look in every corner of the city, till I'm wheezing like a bus stop.
The worst aspects of hippieism came out in yuppieism. I think there's no question that that sort of involvement in self and in being able to go in and achieve and do whatever you wanted to do and express yourself could then very easily become into a sort of an extraordinary selfishness and an incredible ambition.
My ambition would be as a result of my own self-sacrifice. So I am willing to give up weekends. I am willing to give up my evenings in order to do well, to be seen to do well, to achieve.
It would be very nice to do what you want to do and be well paid for it. But I think in the final analysis, I would rather do something that perhaps I didn't enjoy so much, so I could have the financial benefits of it.
It's almost dog eat dog. You're competing against every single person of your own age group to get anywhere.
Every day, 20 kids arrive at the mainline stations with nowhere to go. Unbelievably, there are probably 25,000 homeless youngsters in London.
I get cold. Well, I've been cold before. I was cold when I first got down there. I was thinking, oh no, I can't sleep on the floor. Where's a bed? Well, don't worry about it now.
The Richards had already gone away, hadn't they, in 1966, I think it was. And
Then the twins and I went away in '68, and well, that was the end of an era of the 60s, I think, with all that type of thing.
Bank robberies financed the setting up of drug smuggling syndicates. And we've then, of course, seen the huge explosion of sort of drug smuggling, particularly into London, as one of the key centres.
The distinct trend that we see from perhaps the 60s to now, particularly in London, is a more violent type of street crime.
For the first time in my life, I think I feel afraid of people. It's a terrible thing. I've never been afraid. I mean, I've lived in India, I've been through an earthquake, and, you know, I've got the highest medal for gallantry you can get, and yet now I'm afraid of young people. Isn't it stupid?
Well, it used to be like this years ago. You could go out and leave your door ajar.
It's a fact that if people haven't got any money, they're going to turn to crime, aren't they?
Well, there's nothing for the kids to do, is there, really? No jobs, nothing of a night time for them, so they just get into trouble.
Today, crime is so much more sophisticated. At a press of an electronic button, millions, maybe even billions, can be flashed around the world. Money is laundered.
But they're the people who get the money, the big money, the millions and millions and millions, and nothing ever happens to them. They never seem to be arrested. This is the terrible thing about it all. There you are, that's life, you can't change it.
This is an artist's impression of how part of London's rundown waterfront will look if a £22 million scheme is approved. The site is next to Tower Bridge, close by the Tower of London. It's 25 acres of dockland, built in 1829 and known as St. Catherine's Dock. At present, it's decaying and disused. But within 10 years, it could be the pride of London town.
House of cards, a tower of dominoes. There's a frightening accuracy in those descriptions provoked by the shock of Canning Town's tower block collapse.
The Ronan Point collapse came in many ways at the end of what was called the point block era in London housing, which had continued really since the 50s. The feeling had been, and it was, I think, a very deceitful, fallacious housing philosophy, that you could, as they say, upend neighborhoods and build them round lift shafts. I quite like the National Theatre. It is a post-1968 building. It is unashamedly of its age. It's a modernist building. It would never be built like that today.
Concrete monstrosity. I don't think it's really got a lot to recommend it at all.
NatWest Tower, I would have said, is rather like the Post Office Tower. It's a building of the last of the least exciting periods of 20th century British architecture.
It is awful. It dominates the skyline and adds nothing.
The Lloyd's building is unique. It's an extraordinary folly.
It's ugly. It's an eyesore. It's a shame that Wren isn't alive today.
The Duke of Norfolk, who looks after protocol, has forbidden trouser suits in the royal enclosure, but he said nothing at all about hemline.
One pill makes you larger, and one pill makes you small, and the ones that mother gives you don't do anything at all. Go ask God save the Queen. She ain't no human being. There is no future in England's dreaming. Tell me so, I know what you want, and tell me so, I know what you need. There's no future, no future for you.
The main heading you could really give them now is distinct from the sex thing. I think you'd have to call them urban gorilla. They've got touches of primitive things, rather sort of bandits in the countryside.
Oh, you pretty things. Don't you know you're driving your farmers and farmers insane? Oh, you pretty things. Don't you know you're driving your farmers and farmers insane?
These new romantics drew on punk's lack of restraint to challenge the remaining taboos about male appearance.
The council moved us off Livingston Estate because they wanted to sell the place. They wanted to sell it to developers who would sell off the flat. The people from Livingston Estate were scattered all over the place, and it affected the people so badly that, in fact, children kept coming back to look for their friends for weeks and weeks after they'd left.
I think the important thing that when we were planning this estate, we were trying to establish a living style for people. So if you look around, it's not merely the apartments that one is talking about. We tried to produce an apartment which catered for the profile of purchaser, essentially the typical apartment being 2 bedrooms and the 1 living room, bathroom, kitchen. There was a belief that it was impossible to effect such a change, that people wouldn't want to live in high-rise. We were aware that we could introduce an efficient management, an efficient security into the premises, which would make it actually more attractive the higher up in the block that one went.
For sale, quite a distinguished mid-Victorian house near Wandsworth Common. Ideal for large, unsociable family, or letting as 3 units. An awful lot for your money.
We advertised this house in 1968, and it was 6,500. The present owner, he bought it a month later and paid that sort of figure. It's now back on the market. He spent money on it, he's done works, he's restored it, and he's improved the kitchens and bathrooms and done all the restoring things, not spoiling the period of the house. And it's now back on the market at 235,000. That's an increase of 36 times. And something's got to break in the near future, and when that does break, it will either be a radical adjustment in prices, but it will never be the same again.
We must be mad, literally mad as a nation, to be permitting the annual inflow of some 50,000 dependents who are, for the most part, the material of the future growth of the immigrant-descended population. It is like watching a nation busily engaged in heaping up its own funeral pyre.
Someone shouted at me from a moving vehicle, "Nigger, go home." And it was, for a schoolboy, a very shocking and traumatic thing. That speech caused pus to come from the pores of our nation. So certainly, racism was alive and well in the swinging 60s, just as it is alive and well today, albeit in a slightly different form.
When I came down to this country, I only had 30 pounds in my hand. That's all. But people down here, they'll help us very much. I worked very hard, you know, the stage I am now. I bought this house, it's about 1.5 years now, and it cost me 115,000. My friends from Uganda, they're doing well. They're all right. Very few of them, you know, they had problems. Most of them, they've got their own house now.
The experience of the East African nation has been a model of hard work. At the same time, for whether you're Ugandan Asian or someone of African or Caribbean origin or someone from Pakistan or India, you do not escape the reality of racism.
The bodies of Mrs. Khan and her 3 children were taken to a public playing field for this afternoon's service. Tomorrow they'll be flown to Pakistan for burial. Local Asians are convinced they died in a racialist attack, and community leaders wanted the Muslim service to be a show of solidarity as well as respect.
Society as a whole has to be constantly vigilant and not just simply being opposed to it. You have to have a positive alternative. You have to celebrate the multiracial nature of our society and our city and see the positive and attractive things about that.
If you look at London of the 60s, there were still quite large manufacturing units in places like Battersea or Tottenham or the East End. They've really all been forced out to a greater or less extent, and the sites redeveloped because they were worth so much more as property of officers. The big superstores, they have all created a phenomenal amount of jobs, but those jobs tend to be in warehousing, in distribution, service industries generally. And they tend not to employ the traditional skilled worker who was in manufacturing. In turn, the city has done phenomenally well.
Moving London's water around London will soon be much easier because we're investing in a 50-mile pipeline that operates on the simplest of principles. Water runs downhill.
It's a sad fact that too many small businesses fold in their first year. So if you're starting a new business, pop into NatWest and talk to our small business advisor. You'll find one in every high street branch. Today, NatWest helps start up more small businesses than any other bank. Get off to a good start with NatWest, the Action Bank.
Wouldn't it be nice if you could stay in touch wherever you were? Well, you can, with Message Master paging from British Telecom.
This is Marcello Gandini, and this is his work, which begs the question, what does the Lamborghini designer drive to Lamborghini? Naturally, he chooses one of his own designs, the Citroen BX. Beneath Signor Gandini's sleek exterior beats a heart with 16 valves. It can take this BX from 0 to 60 in less than 7.5 seconds. The car is capable of 135 miles an hour, but today, all this machismo is not for Marcello. He is simply enjoying his work.
Citroen BX. Do you enjoy getting to work as much?
This Saturday, the Comet sale comes to an end. You know where to come.
New Gourmet A La Carte with chicken. A classic among cat foods.
Installed again at County Hall, Labour have regained the largest council. London's voters have chosen a party committed to higher rates and higher spending on housing, on job creation, and on cutting by a quarter.
When Mr. Livingstone became leader, it was like the storming of the Winter Palace in Russia.
I suppose when I became leader, what was shocking for the establishment in Britain was that normally the GLC had been run by respectable knights. I mean, when Sir this, Sir that, Sir the other, going back to 1940, you know. almost said 1840, it's what it felt like.
Charismatic, I would say.
Most odious man in Britain.
A very clever man.
It was absolutely brutal. I mean, every aspect of my private life was raked over. I mean, journalists who were working for Fleet Street papers, some of them paid 30,000 a year, were buying rubber gloves to go through the garbage, you know. You thought there's a rubber glove fetishist here we've got. No, it's just an investigative journalist at work. The problem now will be for the media when Londoners realise that this isn't some evil new regime here in London, but it's a group of ordinary individuals that want to improve public transport, get a housing programme going in and start creating some jobs for the unemployed. When I became leader of the GLC in 1981, what I wanted to achieve was to demonstrate that you could actually make radical socialism work. And therefore I had a very practical agenda. I wanted to demonstrate that we could run the buses better than the Tories and the tubes would be better. All the other things we sought to do were so controversial, I felt were very much secondary, that people wouldn't listen to what I thought about Ireland or lesbian or gay rights unless you could actually demonstrate at the end of the day you could run the bus service and make sure that the Thames barrier got completed on time and all those things. I don't think people want to listen to you pontificate if you clearly can't run a whelk stall. I think we were right. I mean, anybody who's been in London these last 10, 15 years will say they were actually clearly right on this issue. And everything we did then should be done again now.
He gave money to all kinds of crazy causes, ones that were resented by the mass of the populace, collective of prostitutes, all these things went on.
We funded 3,000 different organisations a year that provided services which they provided much more cheaply than we could have done as a bureaucracy. And if the Sun didn't like the names of some of the groups, well, I hope it gave him a bad night's sleep. I think there's a 50% chance of beating Mrs. Thatcher. There's no question of Mrs. Thatcher backing down. Mrs. Thatcher would rather have given in to General Galtieri than give in to the GLC. Mrs. Thatcher had a majority big enough to carry it through. And I think it was because we represented everything she abhors. I mean, I used to say that, in a sense, we were the sort of people her parents warned her not to talk to when she was a little girl.
I have never, over the last year, heard anybody say it's a sad thing this GLC has got. It's been dead and buried as much now as if it was like the Roman conquest of Britain.
These men are a minority. They receive minority treatment, face prejudice and intolerance, stand accused of depravity and vice.
In the 60s, if you knew where to go, if you were one of the lucky few who knew where to go, you could have a reasonably enjoyable life. There was a quiet, secret grapevine. But for thousands, for tens of thousands of people, it was a very miserable, wretched existence with no contact with others. Suicides, blackmails, it was a real Sunday tabloid sort of existence, horrible.
The British police are the best in the world. I don't believe one of these stories I've heard about them raiding our pubs for no reason at all, lining the customers up by the wall.
In London, there was a tremendous atmosphere of excitement, slightly hysterical excitement, but optimism at the same time. And I think that life as a lesbian was, as a middle-class lesbian anyway, was relatively easy, but somewhat ghettoized.
Gay Pride Week celebrated 10 years of gay liberation. Adult male homosexual relations have been legal in Britain for more than 12 years, but homosexuality remains controversial.
You suddenly realise there are thousands of you. I'd always thought you could only be gay in a public toilet, in a bar or in bed, and it was to do with discovering that you could be gay in all the areas of your life.
Relax, don't do it when you want to go to it. Relax.
Come the 80s, the gay scene, the lesbian and gay scene in London is massive. I can take you out any night of the week and take you to 4 clubs and show you anywhere between 1,500, 2,000 people dancing together at a disco.
When you want to come.
Mankind is now facing a new plague, the greatest threat to our existence for over a century. AIDS.
When AIDS started in 1981, it wasn't taken seriously. It was a gay plague. Oh, the queers will die, so who cares?
AIDS is no longer a disease restricted to homosexuals or drug users.
If you look at the way public opinion has changed, it has gone sharply against homosexuals. It ought to have gone the other way.
The rally started peacefully, around 10,000 gay men and women and their supporters marching to protest against a clause in a proposed local government bill that will ban...
In some circles, I think it is much easier to be a lesbian or a gay man. At the same time, I think there is more violence on the streets, there are more attacks, and there are attacks from the state, increasingly, particularly Section 28.
It's always a complicated story for us, but yes, on the whole, I think over the last 3 years, we've had a rough ride in London. But then on a good day, what's at the front of your mind is, I'm taking my boyfriend home to have dinner with my parents again. They're looking forward to seeing him. I'm having a party, half the people here are gay. I go out every night of the week, it's great.
Honey. All right. My baby whispers in my ear. Sweet nothing. He knows the things I like to hear. Sweet nothing. Things he wouldn't tell nobody else. Secret, baby, I keep them to myself. Sweet nothing. Sweet nothing. We walk along hand in hand. Sweet nothing. Yeah, we both understand. Sweet nothing.
Plenty of money for the rich, and there's hardly any for the poor.
There's certainly an underclass of people who are living on the streets who aren't so well off.
I've never seen anything like it, you know, great big mansions everywhere you look.
The facade of what it was. And indeed, it's pleasant to see nice restaurants instead of sleazy strip joints. But I can't help feeling now that it's a bit pretending, you know. It has that atmosphere you find in London all over, of people acting out fantasies rather than actually living curious lives. 1968 was almost the end of a period in a way. Soho was on the down. Many of the old family businesses were being squeezed out by the rise in rents, and the whole place seemed to be one vast and frightful sexual come-on. Every now and then there'd be a shoot-up, you know. Somebody would be killed in an amusement arcade, or gang warfare would break out on a minor scale. It didn't worry one particularly. I mean, the chances of being hit by a stray bullet were very small. But one did see rather dodgy-looking gentlemen occasionally conferring, often in barbers' shops or small cafes.
Mr. Marshall, why do you sleep with a gun and a dog here on your premises?
To protect the premises.
Has anyone actually sort of come in here and said that they're going to break your place up or anything like that?
No, but several establishments have been burnt to the ground in the last few weeks.
Says, oh, let's bring the old Soho back, because I don't want to bring it back. It wasn't all that nice a place. Let's not kid ourselves. I think there were far too many sleazy clubs and sex shops and sex establishments at that time. And there's no doubt that it kept sort of the better type of person away.
When we said we demand sexual freedom, what we eventually got from that sexual freedom was the strip shows and these terribly tacky places. What was originally perhaps an idealistic movement, right or wrong, was turned into something commercial and squalid. That was the sad moment in Soho's history, and I prefer it now, but I'm suspicious of it now because I don't think it's for real.
I never guarantee a job. Driver, can you get me to Heathrow in an hour? I say no. If I knew that, I'd be a millionaire. I can't do it. I can't guarantee it. Whereas 21 years ago, I don't remember those problems at all. Recently, I went from King's Cross to a hotel in West Kensington. £11.50. She probably had to pay that in the train to come down to London, you know. Everybody's got a car, their wife's got a car, their children have got cars. There is more cars coming into London. I've never seen so many roadworks in my life, you know. You've got a problem here because they've closed the Strand underpass, which is going to be closed for a year. And this bridge, going north, is like it practically all day long. Nobody seems to want to do anything with London's traffic. And when it comes to a complete standstill, then perhaps someone will look out the window and decide they're going to do something.
Take it from the bourgeoisie, free, free, LSE. Take it from the bourgeoisie, free, free, LSE. Take it from the bourgeoisie, free, free, LSE. Take it from the bourgeoisie.
Jenkins, you're one of the few people who's been inside that room. Can you tell us what you've seen in there today?
I don't think it'd be very useful if I went into a description of that. It's a very small room. One's pressed by the constriction that there must have been for those two people held by 4 gunmen in this tiny room.
Underground press as a lively and provocative force in this country.
Mr. Thorpe, how do you feel now? Mr. Thorpe, could you kiss your wife, if you would, for us, please? Kiss your wife. It must get better in the long run. Has to get better in the long run. Will it get better in the long run? Will we be here in the long run?
About 5 minutes.
Oh, go on then.
Derek the caravan man came.
Yes.
He picked up that parcel that you left.
Yes.
And he said he'll ring you tonight.
I see.
About the price.
Right, okay.
Right, Dad, the weather's not very good, is it?
No, God, I got drowned twice on the sites today. My mother and father, they had 5 boys, and we were very poor. I suppose in that manner where I lived, I was no poorer or no richer than anyone else, but as you climb the ladder, I suppose you understand how poor you really were. Nobody gets anywhere unless you put a lot of time and effort into it. And my brother and I have put a lot of time and effort, and the only 2 people who really know that are our wives. I suppose I'm an East Ender who's made good. If you've made enough money, you want to move out. You want to have a better environment. I'm not knocking the East End, it's still part of my life. But I wouldn't like to have to go back and live there. I like the open spaces, and I think anybody who's made a few bob in their life and they want nice surroundings, then they should move out. And I think that's why you work hard and you want to end up with the nice things in life.
My mother and father still live in the East End, and I thought, well, I wasn't very happy with leaving them there, but Don said, if you don't like it, then we move back. He said, give it a little while, and if you really can't settle in, we move back. So we gave it a try, and from the word off, I loved it. I come from Canning Town, I'm a West Ham supporter. Still there, it's always there. But I do like living where I'm living, and I think that's one of the nicest things of, if you like, when you've made it.
Cosmopolitan than it used to be. A lot more different cultures. I think a lot more interesting place to live in.
I'd never go out in the evening on my own, never.
The traffic has got worse, though, definitely. I can remember when you could drive into London quite easily, but not now.
The whole atmosphere has changed. I can't put my finger on it exactly, but I think it is ugly, it is dirty, and it is becoming unpleasant.
There's some fabulous houses if you can afford to live in one.
I like the fact of living somewhere where a lot of other people pay a lot of money to come and see it.
People from today will look back in the year 2000 and say, oh, London was good then, it's not so good now.
Those were the days, my friend, we thought they'd never end. We'd sing and dance forever and a day. We'd live the life we choose, we'd fight and never lose. Those were the days, oh yes, those were the days. La 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 la
The great TV book celebrating 21 years of LWT is published by Sidgwick and Jackson and is available at booksellers, price £7.99. Next tonight, more birthday nostalgia when Adam Faith stars as Budgie.
Enjoy the fabulous Joe Longthorne and his fantastic new album, Especially for You. A great star singing 16 songs of love and romance. The magic voice of Joe Longthorne returns with a brand new album, Especially for You, on Telstar.
Contact your local electricity people to find out how your business and electricity can really work together.
Watch out for the XXX brand. XXX, the extra strong mint from Rowntree's.
In the rich character of Martini Rosso, there are as many revelations awaiting you as there are people. Or as many inner mysteries to taste as there are moments to share. Martini Rosso.
Protect the innocent. 30 metal monsters on one double album. Protect the innocent or face the consequences.
I think I'll have number 3.
A popular choice in Blind Date. See this and many other magic moments in the best of Blind Date. Join Scylla at 6:55 tomorrow.
And join me for a comedy celebration in 21 years of laughter. TV comedians from the 60s to the 80s.
Part of our 21st birthday celebrations tomorrow night.
Now on LWT, Adam Faith is Budgie.